Welcome to this video tutorial. The aim is to help you evaluate external class explanations to gain those valuable AO3 marks. This video is focusing on cultural and material explanations with an overview of each, with explicit evaluation and an example of analysis to help gain those essential AO3. As always, thank you for watching. If you gained value from this video, click the like button. Want to see more? Please subscribe and hit the bell for the notifications. So why is AO3 important? Well, checking out the mark scheme for the top bands, it's useful to note exactly what you need to be doing to get right up there. So according to the mark scheme, you need analysis and evaluation that will be explicit and relevant. Evaluation may be developed, for example, by locating the discussion between internal and external factors, and analysis will show clear explanations. To help you make notes, I made this handout, so please download it. This will enable you to fill it in as you go along to identify some of the key points. So let's kick off with the cultural factors. Now, a person's culture is their values, attitudes, skills acquired from primary socialisation. Cultural deprivation theorists argue that the working class culture fails to equip their children for educational success, whereas the middle class culture gives them something called cultural capital, which, like wealth, gives an advantage to those that possess it. So let's break firstly cultural down, give some examples, apply it to achievement, analyse and evaluate. Cultural deprivation theorists such as Hubs-Tate, Bernstein and Barita and Engelman claim that the working class fail to socialise their children adequately for educational success. Language and speech is an important part of this socialisation process. According to Bernstein, there is two types of speech codes. The working class speak in a restricted speech code, whereas the middle class more likely to speak in an elaborate speech code. Now, applying that to education, the speech in the elaborate code at home is the same speech that is used by teachers, textbooks and exams, and as a result, this leads to educational success. Whereas we can gain analysis by comparing the middle class and the working class. So the working class are at a disadvantage because their speech is restricted by being short, grammatically incorrect and disjointed, whereas the middle class has more vocabulary and is more complex. So when starting school, the middle class are more fluent in this language, which then leads to more success. However, this is where you're going to get your AO3 evaluation marks. It is accused of blaming the working class parents for not speaking in the elaborate code with their children. It also blames the school for not teaching the working class students how to use the elaborate code effectively for educational success. And there's another criticism is that schools have a speech hierarchy where teachers label middle class speech the highest, followed by working class speech and then black speech the lowest. A second explanation is about parental attitude. So cultural deprivation theorists such as Douglas and Feinstein, they argue that parental attitudes to education are a key factor to achievement. In terms of parenting style, the middle class have an emphasis on consistent discipline, high expectations, compared to the harsh discipline and do as you're told of the working class. In terms of parental educational behaviour, parents who are better educated are more aware of what is expected compared to those that aren't. So then if we then start to apply some AO2 and we start to apply it to educational achievement, parents from a middle class background who have a value on education, they invest in their child's progress, give them lots of encouragement, they're very ambitious. This will have a positive effect on their child's achievement because then when they start to go to school, they will display these high values on education within the school context as well, which then could influence the way that they're treated and labelled by their teachers. Continuing that analysis by comparing the middle class and the working class, you can develop the middle class explanation a little bit further by comparing the working class deprivation with middle class cultural capital. Middle class, on the other hand, spends their income on visits to libraries and museums, they invest in tutors, they have educational resources, and they use their educational understanding of league tables and Ofsted. They are able to invest in houses close to the better schools. And this will have a knock-on effect on the child's educational achievement in comparison to the working class. However, there is an assumption that the working class don't value their child's achievements. For example, Some piece of research says that the working class attend fewer parents' evening, and it's not because they're not interested, rather they work longer hours. And a further criticism is that education plays more than a role than just class background. Feinstein notes that a better educated parent has more successful children. This might explain why not all children from working class parents do equally bad, and why not all children from middle class families are equally successful. It's all down to their parents' educational background as well. Our third explanation is about subcultural values. So cultural deprivation theorists such as like Barry Sugarman argued that parental interests are part of a different subcultural values of that class. Barry Sugarman identified that the working class have values such as fatalism, which is a belief in fate, whatever will be, nothing that you can do will change your status. So it's a feeling that they are stuck where they are. Collectivism, valuing part of a group over individual success. Immediate gratification, so seeking pleasures now rather than deferring it. And present time orientation, so seeing the present as being more important and not having long-term goals. So just to show a little bit of application and how it links to achievement. These values, which are taught via primary socialisation, are internalised by the working class children. This means that when they do get into school and having this live for today attitude, valuing having a laugh with their friends, this belief in fate, well, I can't do it, so there's nothing I can do about it. This will have this knock-on effect, which will then lead to their educational underachievement. I can see some of these features in Willis's Working Class Boys, and you might want to make some comparison there. In terms of your analysis, do that comparison again compared to middle class. Middle class have values such as a belief in the effort that you put in. So not fatalism, but that if you work hard, you can achieve. Rather than this belief in collectivism, the group, they have this about more individualism and individual success. Deferred gratification, so working hard to get rewarded within the future. And future time orientation, looking forward, having long-term goals. Now, the problem with this and looking at a person's subculture is very much victim blaming. It's like saying, because you have the wrong attitudes and values, that is your fault, and that means that you have caused your own underachievement, and it is very much victim blaming. Keddy develops this a little bit further. She argues that the working class are not culturally deprived, they are culturally different, and we need to treat them as a different class and a different culture. The fault is the education system. It doesn't value the working class cultural values. This importance of collectivism, for example, the fact that jobs are short term, so they've got to live in the here and now. They can't set long term goals. So the education system does need to reflect those values. So our final explanation that we're going to analyse and evaluate comes from material factors. So what are our material factors? Now, these theorists argue that poverty and a lack of material necessities, such as adequate housing and income, will lead to underachievement. For example, your housing, that could be overcrowded or damp, there might be a lack of space, or even temporary, meaning that these children might have to move house a lot. And this is going to have an indirect impact on achievement. There's your application, there's your AO2. Overcrowded homes might have a lot more accidents, which then might mean there's a lot more time off school. Diet and health, poor diet and nutrition might result in a weaker immune system, which then, this knock-on effect, leads to time off school, looks like they're not interested, teacher labelling then kicks in, and they're not valued as the ideal pupil because they've got high levels of unauthorised absences. Other explanations are related more to the cost of schooling and what money can buy, basically. So the cost of education, the cost of free schooling, is like buying uniforms and educational resources. And if you can't have them, if you can't afford them, that might lead to bullying. And the knock-on effect is that It might mean that you can't concentrate in class because you're worrying about what the bullies are doing and saying, or you have extended periods of time off school, truancy, for example, and this all will lead to educational underachievement. This will have a knock-on effect as well into this idea about the relationship between class and money, and there is this fear of debt. Working class are debt adverse. They see debt as a bad thing, whereas the middle class see paying for something like tuition fees and that kind of debt as an investment. It's a good thing. The benefits outweigh the cost of it. And these will all have an impact under on the underachievement of the working class. So again, let's analyse in comparison to the middle class children tend to have a place to study. They have access to the resources. They've got the computer, they've got the internet. They can go on trips. They go to the library. They go to museums. They have holidays where there's some cultural significance to them. And that means that their homework is completed. It's probably to a higher standard. There's more context to it, more understanding. And this will advance their educational achievements. Bit of application here too. However, whilst material factors clearly play an educational role in their achievement, some children from poor families do succeed. Suggests that material factors are only part of the explanation, and that's where you can start to make a debate between the material or is it cultural factors, but also is it material or is it the labelling factors and the things that are happening within school as well. Remember, you can have that debate both ways. So, for example, cultural values, your religious or your political values, may play a massive part in motivating a student, regardless of whether they live in poverty. We know that some backgrounds, despite having a higher level of poverty, they have a much higher emphasis on educational achievement. Mortimer and Whitty argue that material factors overall have the greatest effect on achievement. So, in summary, this video has given an overview of the main external explanations to class differences in educational achievement. The focus was more on the analysis and evaluation points, which you can easily add to your essays. As always, massive thank you for watching. We're focusing on the higher skills, analysis, application, and evaluation for you to score high in the sociology essays that you're writing. Other videos that you might find useful, I have popped down in the information below. Have a great day and massive thank you for watching.